Hello and welcome back to another video. So today I'm starting my journey here at Bichu Kojiro. Now this is a very rural station in basically, well, the middle of nowhere, not to put too fine a point on it, but it's where the Geibi line begins. In fact, the 0-kilometer post is right in front of me now. The Geibi line, of course, runs all the way through the mountains and eventually ends up in Hiroshima. Today, I'm not going all the way to Hiroshima though. Well, I am, but by a different route, the Sanyo line, later today. But today, as far as the Geibi line is concerned, I'm going to a little station called Uchina. Now, Uchina is a very, very, very rural station. You'll see when we get there just how rural it is. Anyway, I'm very much looking forward to the journey, and I'm also looking forward to the hour or so I can spend at Uchina station. Now, that hour is not my choice. I would have been happy to have stayed for longer, but the fact is that's the only option I have, because there are only 3 trains in each direction a day. One train is early in the morning, one train is mid to late evening, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock-ish, and the other train is lunchtime, mid-afternoon. Realistically, that middle option is the only option I have. Still, I think 1 hour should be enough. But obviously, we'll see when we get there. I've been through Uchina station many times, but I've never actually got off at the station, so this will be an interesting journey. Now, the thing I should say about my journey today is that there is at least a possibility that it may not actually be possible to make this journey for too much longer. I think it's fair to say that JR are looking to close the section of the Geibi line between Shobara and here, Bichu Kojiro. And I can sort of see why. The number of passengers is very, very few. I think that Hiroshima Prefecture is against the closure. I think. I can't be certain. But as I say, it's all being discussed. But basically, I think if JR gets its way, then this section of the line will be closed. Now, whether or when closure will happen is anyone's guess. I think it's completely undecided at the minute. But I think it is fair to say that this section of the Geibi line possibly doesn't have that long a life. It really is a great shame. But, as I say, although I don't agree with the proposal to close the line, I can see why it's been made. I mean, first of all, this line, the Geibi line, after Miyoshi and to an extent Shobara, doesn't really link any large cities. In fact, no large cities. Shobara is a moderately sized city, but then between Shobara and here, Kojiro, there's Tojo town, which is again a moderately sized town, but there's not really that much else of note. Which means that, of course, passengers are few, and I think more to the point, becoming fewer, with really not that much hope of the situation becoming any better. I think there are fewer and fewer children in Japan, which means that there are fewer and fewer students commuting to high school by train. So, if the situation is not very good now, then realistically it's probably only going to get worse. Which, as I say, is a great shame, but I can see why JR is of the mindset that really this part of the Geibi line should be closed. I think that in the end, the only way to give the line any sort of sustainable future is to make it effectively a tourist line. As we'll see from the train, hopefully, some of the scenery along the line is very beautiful indeed. And I think with a train that offered maybe dining facilities, at least, let's say, a simple bar, tourists would come and they would travel the line just to take a trip on it, effectively. And with any luck, hopefully, that would raise enough revenue to make the line sustainable for the people in the local area who actually need to use it. Because, of course, it's not just students who use the line. Older people who can't use cars or don't have cars maybe also use it. So I think closing it does have a negative impact on quite a few groups of people, really. But I think it's equally fair to say that the people in those groups, the people who would be negatively affected by the line closing, are unfortunately becoming fewer and fewer. So I think JR does have a problem. But I equally do think that a little bit more imaginative thinking could help to possibly at least, solve the problem. Anyway, more's the pity, I don't work for JR, so I don't get paid to think of solutions to these problems. I don't even get paid to complain about them, in fact. So in the end, I have to leave the solutions to the problem of the Gaby line up to someone else. I'm sure that solutions like tourist services have been thought of. If they haven't, I hope they are in the very near future. In the end, ultimately, it would be a real shame to let the line close, basically through neglect. So let's hope it doesn't come to that. Alright, rant over. Today I'm going to make the most of this chance and enjoy the journey to the full while I still can. This isn't my train, by the way, more's the pity. Bichu Kojiro is on the Hakubi line, and so there are regular express services between Okayama and Izumoshi. This is one of those services, the Yakumo service. These trains were introduced last year. They're very nice indeed, I have to say. This is my train though. It's the service to Bingo Ochiai on the Gaby line. And as ever, it's a one-car train. Actually, it does look like there are quite a few people on it though. Okay, so I've been able to find a spot to stand at the very front of the train. So what I'll do is I will show you a few views from the front of the train, and if I get a chance, some views out from a side window. I hope you'll agree with me that the Gaby line, or this part of the Gaby line at least, is actually quite a beautiful line. I think this time of year, when the rice fields are just being prepared for planting, is one of the particularly beautiful times of year. We're just about to arrive at Yagami Station. Now, I have a friend who used to be a conductor on the Gaby line back in the days when there were still conductors. Now, of course, it's a driver-only train. Anyway, he always says that I should go and visit Yagami in the spring. And the reason is that on the station platform there is a cherry blossom tree with green cherry blossoms. I assume he's referring to this tree here. Unfortunately, obviously, it's too late for cherry blossoms this year. Maybe next year. Okay, we left Tojo Station about 2 minutes ago, and this is where the scenery on the line starts to get really impressive. So, what do you think? Let's just say that JR did introduce a tourist train on this line. Would you come and ride it? I personally think this scenery is absolutely breathtaking. But please leave a comment and let me know what you think. This part of the line is obviously beautiful now, with all the fresh spring green colours, but just imagine it in autumn, when all of these leaves are red and orange and gold. It really is spectacular. So, this is Uchina Station, and the Geibi line and this area itself is as beautiful as I remembered. It's actually, on a day like today, it's quite stunning. I mean, places like the Japan Alps are also absolutely spellbindingly beautiful. But I would say the northern part of Hiroshima, where we are now, is as beautiful. It's beautiful in a different way, but it's as beautiful. Anyway, I have about an hour until the train I've just got off comes back. So let's go and explore a little bit. Before anything else, let's take a quick look at the railway station. I think it will be quite a quick look as well because, as you can see, it's fairly simple. There's a single platform, a single line, and a single waiting shelter. That's about it, really. I did say earlier that it's a really, really, really rural station. Do you see what I mean now? Still, it's quite a nice station, and I like it. I love the way that the station waiting room has been so lovingly decorated, and also that the signboards and even the lampposts have little plastic flowers decorating them. Obviously, the community looks after this station, which is great. It's just a shame that that doesn't seem to translate to people using the station. The most recent figures I can find for passengers using this station is 0. So that's an average of 0 people per day. In contrast, back in 1990, it was 17 people a day. Now, this station is a relatively new station. I say relatively new. It was opened in 1955, which, when you think about it, is 70 years ago this year. So it's not that new, but it's newer than other stations on the line. And presumably, this station was opened because there was a need for it. It wasn't opened when the line opened, but presumably the villagers from around here wanted a station, asked for a station, and finally got a station. One thing I did notice in the little waiting shelter is there was a big poster saying, "Welcome to Uchina Station," and it was drawn by the first and second grade students at Awada Elementary School, which is presumably the local elementary school. So, obviously the school is making efforts to foster some sort of interest in the railway and the station. It's just a shame, though, that it doesn't seem to translate into people using the station. And I think that part of that is, again, it's a little bit of a vicious circle, but there are so few trains. I mean, who's going to use, realistically, a train service that has 3 trains a day when one is the early morning, one is late at night, and one is in the lunchtime, mid-afternoon time slot? It's just too inconvenient, and so people don't use it, and so the train service is reduced, and so it becomes even less easy to use, and so it's reduced even further. And where does that end up? Ultimately, it ends up in closure, which it seems could well happen to this line, and it would be a crying shame. I mean, it's a beautiful line, and the scenery around here is, well, breathtaking. I can't think of another word for it. I mean, just look behind me. Actually, let me turn the camera around and I'll show you a little bit more. Now, to be fair, This isn't the rocky, craggy scenery of somewhere like the Japan Alps, which is rightly famous for its beauty. But this sort of softer landscape is as beautiful, I would say. I love the north of Hiroshima and basically the scenery that the Geibi line traverses, and I think that's part of the reason why I think it would be such a huge shame if the line were to close or be truncated back to Shobara. Alright, so having walked down from the station, which is on the side of a hill, really, we come down into this valley, and this rather beautiful river is the Nariwa River. Stunning, really, especially on a day like today, and especially with the what in Japanese is called shinryoku, the fresh green. And I'm not sure how much you can see on this camera, but the water is absolutely crystal clear. And this is the view from the other side of the bridge, and if anything, this is even more spectacular. Alright, let's take a little walk around the village, or maybe settlement is a better word. Let's take a walk around the settlement and see if there's anything we can see. There are a few houses, but I think that's probably it, to be honest. Anyway, let's go and see. This is apparently a little waiting shelter for children waiting to commute to school, presumably by school bus, I would say. In that forest up ahead, I can see some vermilion wood through the trees, which means there's a shrine. I've got about 30 minutes before the train. Hopefully I can walk up and take a look. Let's go and see. So, unfortunately, it looks like you have to actually go through the shrine office or whatever to get to the red part of the shrine, which is unfortunate. It may have been open, but I didn't really want to try the door. There was nobody around, but just in case, it didn't feel right. So, unfortunately, I didn't actually see the shrine itself. But, nevertheless, it was a nice walk up to the shrine and a beautiful view out over the valley from where the shrine is. Alright, I'm going to say this now. I was going to wait until I got back to the railway station, but it can be said now. I could live here. Yes, it's incredibly rural, but that ruralness is matched, more than matched, by this stunning location. I mean, it's absolutely breathtaking. Now, I'm sure it wouldn't be quite so easy to live here in the middle of winter, when I'm sure the snow up here is, let's say, quite significant. But even with snow, even with terrible weather, I think this valley, these hills, would have their own special beauty all year round, and I would love to be able to experience that. Now, unless I'm missing something very, very big, I don't think there are any facilities at all in this village. No shops. I haven't even seen a vending machine. So, obviously, you would need a car, or you would need to rely on the train and time your journeys to go shopping and things very, very carefully. But I think with a car, you could live here. Obviously, you'd have to drive to Tojo for supermarkets and things, I would say. But Tojo's not that far. I mean, it was only 2 stations away, and I'm sure in a car it wouldn't be much more than 10 minutes or so. So, yes, it wouldn't be the most convenient place to live, but it would be doable, and I think just this scenery makes up for it. I could live here and I could gaze out at these hills every single day and not get tired of them. They are quite stunning. I'm probably not going to move, but what I'm saying is I could. I think already I get water and beer delivered through Amazon. So if Amazon would deliver here, that would be one step closer to making life here possible. But it's a pipe dream, realistically, but it's a lovely thought to have. I would love to move here and seriously just spend my days among this incredible, breathtaking, stunning scenery. I know one thing, I will be back, definitely. And I will try to be back in each of the seasons. I'd love to see it in winter here. I think it would be a very harsh landscape, but I think it would still be remarkably beautiful. I think, too, when the rice is ready for harvesting, that would also have its own appeal. The rice fields I saw hadn't been planted yet, but there was water in them, so obviously they're still being cultivated. So again, late summer, early autumn would be a wonderful time to visit. I just have to hope now that the railway stays open for long enough to allow me to actually visit. Let's keep fingers crossed. Alright, I'm basically back at the railway station, and I know one thing: if you lived here and you use the train frequently, you'd soon get fit. This slope up to the station is like a small mountain. Oh, I could do with a break after this. Okay, so my train back to Nimi is going to arrive in 5 minutes or so, so I think I'd better start finishing this video. So, I hope you enjoyed this little visit to Uchina. I really did. I think you probably guessed that from the content of the video. It's an absolutely incredible place in terms of scenery. I didn't meet anyone, I didn't even see anyone, so I can't speak to what the community is like, or even if there is a community really. But from what I know of small villages like this up in the north of Hiroshima, I think it would be friendly. I think the villagers, the settlement dwellers if you want, I think villagers is a nicer term, but I think the villagers would be more than happy to see a new face, even as a visitor, and would be happy to talk, chat, whatever. So I'm sure this village, this settlement, whatever we're calling it, would be a great place to spend a little bit more time in. It's just a shame that the trains don't make that possible. Anyway, if you ever find yourself in the north of Okayama Prefecture or Hiroshima Prefecture, and you have some spare time and you fancy a little adventure, catch the Geibi line. Catch it as far as Uchina, this station, and I guarantee you won't regret it. Anyway, thank you very much as ever for watching this video. I hope to see you again in another video very soon, but for now, from Uchina, goodbye. Just one more thing, I forgot to say this earlier. When I went into the little waiting shelter, there was a plastic box full of Uchina station badges and no charge for them, so I took one. This is what it's like. So obviously these have been made by, I'm assuming, someone in this community for visitors to the station. I think that's a wonderful little thing to do, to make badges to welcome people to the station. I think it just shows in a way, again, how the community has sort of adopted this station. I mean, the poster drawn by the elementary school students is another example of that. It's just a shame, as I've said earlier in this video, that doesn't translate to ridership, to passenger numbers. But at least part of that is the fault of the timetable. There aren't enough trains to make this a viable service, and therefore it's not a viable service in terms of passenger numbers. But I think it is really wonderful to have a station that has its own little badges, original badges. And I think it's wonderful that someone cares enough to make those badges. So that's just a nice, heartwarming little thing to finish on. So once again, thanks for watching, and from the station, Uchina Station, goodbye.